Jeff, and this is a very special presentation of Read on C.S. Lewis. It's come to my attention that episode 35 of my series was recorded entirely with the mic on mute. So I am going back and I am re-recording that episode where I covered 2 letters from C.S. Lewis in the year 1916. One that he wrote to his father and another that he wrote to his best friend, Arthur Greaves. So I'm going to try to talk a little bit lower and a little bit faster. And I've got Robot Lady here with me, but there's somebody in the next room over that's about to go to sleep. So I'm going to try to knock this out really quickly so that I can get it taken care of and remedy this problem. So here we go. Before I get started, Robot Lady, do you have anything you want to say?
Oh no, Jeff, a muted mic for episode 35? That's rough. Glad you're remedying it now, though. I'll keep it concise so you can stay quiet and speedy. Ready when you are?
All right, let's go. This one is to his father, LFG. That's what I'm told I'm supposed to say. This one is to his father, dated October 6, 1916. He says, "My dear Pappy, many thanks for the catalogs, which were necessary to my peace of mind. I shouldn't try the conceit, if I were you, as 2 can play at that game, and you might get a number of strange parcels. Since I last wrote, the awe-inspiring person, the tutor for entrances of Balliol, has deigned to forward us last year's scholarship papers for that college, although we are, I think, quite determined now on the big group. He distinguished himself by doing the very thing that we have so often discussed, addressing his envelope to the Reverend T.W. Kirkpatrick, thinking, I suppose, that no one except a clergyman could possibly be thinking, I suppose, that no one except a clergyman could possibly be entrusted, that's it, with the youth of a nation. The papers themselves were pretty much what we expected and not discouraging." I'm going to pause here, Robot Lady. He's talking about being in contact with the tutor for entrances at Balliol College, one of the colleges at the University of Oxford that he was considering applying for and trying to get into.
Got it. Lewis seems to be navigating the bureaucracy of applying to Balliol College at Oxford, dealing with scholarship papers and correspondences. It's interesting how he notes the tutor's assumption about Kirkpatrick being a clergyman, perhaps hinting at biases or quirks in academic traditions. It also shows his confidence growing, as the papers weren't discouraging. Should I add anything about Kirkpatrick or his influence here?
Oh, if you want to, in about 30 words or less, add whatever you would like.
Kirkpatrick, Lewis's tutor, was pivotal in sharpening his logical thinking and preparing him for Oxford. Lewis admired his intellect despite Kirkpatrick's atheism, which contrasted with his own evolving beliefs.
The papers themselves were pretty much what we expected and not discouraging. The subject for an English essay with no alternative was, quote, diplomacy, which is rather a mouthful. It would involve a good deal of history. Kirk has been growing very enthusiastic on the superior composition of these papers to the very enthusiastic on the superior... Man, I keep reading the same line I just read. I need to slow down. Kirk has been growing very enthusiastic on the superior composition of these papers to the Trinity ones, which indeed were rather unintelligently drawn up. Some of the pieces in the scholarship exams are desperately hard, while others of the pieces in the scholarship exams, while others in the fellowship ones are ridiculously easy. Of course, it is the competition and the standard required which really makes the difference. I agree with you that a, quote, course would be much worse in this scheme, for with you that... No, did it again. What is going on? For while it is true that a man can always learn a course, another can always learn it better. So that's the end of that point in the letter, Robot Lady. Any thoughts before I continue?
Lewis seems to be weighing the difficulty and fairness of academic standards, reflecting on how exams test true ability versus rote learning. It also highlights Kirkpatrick's strong opinions and Lewis's growing analytical mindset. Ready for the next part?
I am reading at present a book whose scene is laid in Oxford and which tells one a good deal about the university, not Tom Brown. Here in the footnote it says Thomas Hughes's Tom Brown's School Days 1857, Tom Brown at Oxford 1861, so he's clarifying that it's not either of those. Lady Connie by Mrs. Humphrey Ward. Mrs. Humphrey Ward, Mary Augusta Ward, Lady Connie, published 1916. She is a favorite of yours, is she not? He asks his dad this question. I have never read her until now, and she seems to have many points. She is rather a pedant, though, insists too much on her, quote, culture, and tells us a great deal about Tanagra statues, Titanesque effects, discoveries in Crete, Euripides, Goethe, etc., etc. You know what I mean. We have yet another pupil here, a boy who comes every morning to do Spanish. He is reading for the Foreign Office. It seems a lovely language and so easy that I can imagine, quote, even Warney taking to it. I wish I could prevent Arthur's invasions, but don't know quite how to do it. Your loving son, Jack. So yeah, at this point in his life, Lewis is, let's see how old he is. October, it's not his birthday yet. November is when his birthday is, so 1916. He's going to turn 18. He's currently 17 right here. So that's the end of the letter, Robot Lady. I'm going to jump into the next one. Like I said, I don't have a lot of time, so if you want to say something really quickly about that letter, try to keep it brief.
"17-year-old Lewis shows curiosity about Oxford life and literature, critiques Ward's pedantry, and humorously juggles academic life and Arthur's visits." Ready for the next?
All right, the next one, speaking of Arthur, is to Arthur Greaves. It's written from Gaston's. That's where Lewis is getting his one-on-one tutoring with W.T. Kirkpatrick in Bookham, Surrey, England. It's dated October the 12th, roughly, 1916. Lewis, whenever he was dating it here, he wrote October 12th, I think. He says, "My dear Arthur, it was unfortunate that I should choose a word like exultation, which is so often used in connection with religion, and so give you a wrong impression of my meaning. I will try to explain again. Have you ever sat over the fire late at night when you are very drowsy and muddle-headed, and it is no use trying to go on with your book? Everything seems like a dream. You are absolutely contented and out of the world. Anything seems possible, and all sorts of queer ideas float through your mind and sort of vaguely thrill you, but only mildly and calmly. It is this sort of mood that the quaint old mystical parts of Malory," he's talking about Sir Thomas Malory here, and particularly his Mort d'Arthur, his tales of King Arthur and King Arthur's court and the Knights of the Round Table. He says, the mystical parts of Malory are exactly suitable when you're in this state. You can read a chapter or two in a sort of dream and find the forests of Logres and of Lyonesse very agreeable at such a time. At least I do. Yeah, like I said, I'm redoing this. I found this a very interesting way of him deciding when and how to read certain types of texts to put himself in a particular state and then subject himself to a work like this. So it's very interesting.
It's fascinating how Lewis aligns his reading mood with the mystical tone of Le Morte d'Arthur. His method reveals a deep awareness of how literature can evoke particular emotions and atmospheres. Shall we continue?
Yeah, he goes on. He says, "As to the other question about religion, I was sad to read your letter. You ask me my religious views. You know, I think, that I believe in no religion. There's absolutely no proof for any of them. And from a philosophical standpoint, Christianity is not even the best. All religions, that is, all mythologies, to give them their proper name, and merely man's own invention, are merely man's own invention," this young C.S. Lewis says. Christ, as much as Loki, was just an invention. Primitive man found himself surrounded by all sorts of terrible things that he didn't understand: thunder, pestilence, snakes, etc. What more natural than to suppose that these were animated by evil spirits trying to torture him? A much older Lewis goes on and explains this same way of looking at the world, but then he traverses out of it as he talks about the merits of Christianity in his book, The Problem of Pain, and how Christianity itself helps deal with the existence of evil in the world. Lewis, anyway, goes on here at age, what did I say, 17, almost 18. He says, "These man kept off by cringing to them, singing songs and making sacrifices, etc. Gradually, from being mere nature spirits, these supposed being or beings were elevated into more elaborate ideas, such as the old gods. And when man became more refined, he pretended that these spirits were good as well as powerful." So this is Lewis's view on what religion is, and he currently has no religion because he thinks this is all made up. Robot Lady, if you have anything to say, keep it brief, please.
This young Lewis reflects a rationalist, almost anthropological view of religion as a human construct, influenced by Kirkpatrick's atheism. It's striking how this perspective evolves into deep faith later in life.
He continues, "Thus religion, that is to say mythology, grew up. Often, too, great men were regarded as gods after their death, such as Heracles or Odin. Thus, after the death of a Hebrew philosopher, Yeshua, whose name we have corrupted into Jesus, he became regarded as a god. A cult sprang up, which was afterwards connected with the ancient Hebrew Yahweh worship, and so Christianity came into being, one mythology among many, but one that we happen to have been brought up in. Now, all this you must have heard before. It is the recognized scientific account of the growth of religions. Superstition, of course, in every age has held the common people, but in every age the educated and thinking ones have stood outside it, though usually outwardly conceding to it for convenience. I had thought that you were gradually being emancipated from the old beliefs, but if this is not so, I hope we are too sensible to quarrel about abstract ideas. I must only add that one's views on religious subjects don't make any difference in morals, of course. A good member of society must, of course, try to be honest, chaste, truthful, kindly, etc. These are things we owe to our own manhood and dignity, and not to any imagined god or gods." Yeah, I think the first time when I read about this on Mute, I just kind of pushed back on young C.S. Lewis a little bit, and I said, well, you're just kind of pushing the ball back a little bit, and you're just saying, you're kicking the can down the road and saying, well, manhood and dignity are things that we owe, you know. Okay, where is the, you know, what's the argument, or what makes those things any more real than these quote-unquote mythologies that grew up out of nowhere that he's talking about? Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I didn't make a very good argument there, and I probably didn't the last time that I tried it. But Robot Lady, I'm going to continue. If you want to add anything in, please keep it brief.
Young Lewis here prioritizes human dignity and moral independence over divine mandates, reflecting Kirkpatrick's rationalist influence. His later conversion re-examines these ideas deeply.
He goes on, of course, mind you, I am not laying down as a certainty that there is nothing outside the material world. Considering the discoveries that are always being made, this would be foolish. Anything may exist, but until we know that it does, we can't make any assumptions. The universe is an absolute mystery. Man has made many guesses at it, but the answer is yet to seek. Whenever any new light can be got as to such matters, I will be glad to welcome it. In the meantime, I am not going to go back to the bondage of believing in any old and already decaying superstition. See, I have wasted 3/4 of my letter on all these dry bones. However, old man, you started the subject, and I have to have my turn. Yes, I wish you had really been with me on the walk on Friday Street. How you and I alone would have gloried in these woods and valleys. But someday we will go and spend a week there at the inn, get up at 5 every morning and go to bed at 8, spending the intervals sitting by the lake and talking to the jackdaw. He can only say caw, so that will be a nice change after my torrents of conversation. I have written up for Letters from Hell, and it ought to be here by the end of the week. Letters from Hell is a book that Lewis eventually read, and Walter Hooper guesses that it may have in some way or another influenced C.S. Lewis much later in life, putting together his famous book, The Screwtape Letters. But if I remember right, Lewis was not impressed with this book, Letters from Hell, whenever he read it as a young man. So he says, I've written up for Letters from Hell, and it ought to be here by the end of the week. I am looking forward to it immensely and will enjoy being able to talk it over with you. You ask me what, quote, special, end quote, book I am reading at present. You must remember that I read seriously only on weekends. When I last wrote, my weekend books were Comus and The Mort d'Arthur. Last weekend, Comus being finished, its place was taken by Shelley's Prometheus Unbound. I see that Mark D. Parker has joined the chat, Robot Lady. Isn't this how we started our today? Of course, it's now tomorrow for the two of us. Yeah, you're right, Mark. I was doing some cleanup work, some housekeeping on my whole Read on C.S. Lewis project, and I found that episode 35, way back in the project, I did the whole thing with my mic on mute, so I'm here redoing it, reading through those letters. So thanks for joining. Always glad to have you, Mark.
It's great that Mark Parker could join. Revisiting those muted episodes seems like a worthwhile endeavor.
Yes, I'll continue here. Let's see. Last weekend, Comus being finished, its place was taken by Shelley's Prometheus Unbound. And here it says this is by Percy Bysshe, or Biss, don't know how to pronounce that, Shelley. Prometheus Unbound, published 1820. Lewis says, which I got half through. It is an amazing work. I don't know how to describe it to you. It is more wild and out of the world than any poem I have ever read, and contains some wonderful descriptions. Shelley had a great genius, but his carelessness about rhymes, meter, choice of words, etc. just prevents him being as good as he might be. To me, when you're in the middle of a fine passage and come to a Cockney rhyme like ruin and pursuin, it spoils the whole thing. Make it vulgar and grotesque, or it makes it vulgar and grotesque. However, some parts are so splendid that I could forgive him anything. I am now through the week reading Scott's Antiquary, and here it says this is Sir Walter Scott's The Antiquary, published 1816. He says, I suppose you have read it long ago. I am very pleased with it, especially the character of the antiquary himself. The description of his room and the old beggar. What is this antiquary work, Robot Lady? Can you tell us about it in 20 words or less?
The Antiquary is a novel by Sir Walter Scott about history, mystery, and romance, exploring Scotland's cultural past through eccentric characters.
All right, Lewis says, where did I leave off? Tell me your views when you write. It is nice gradually to get more and more into each other's style of reading, is it not? You with poetry and I with classical novels. As to Blarus, he is dead, and I shan't trouble you his grave. And here it says the quest of Blarus lies in a very distinguished grave. The manuscript is now in the Bodleian Library, which is in Oxford. Let's see. I will try and write something new soon, a short tale, I expect. But I am rather taken up with verse at present in my spare time, which gets less and less as the exam draws nearer. However, I look eagerly for the first chapter of your novel. Or failing that, the next leaf of Dennis. It is an amazing thing to call the Kalevala tame, or Kalevala tame. Whatever else it is not tame. If a poem all about floods and primeval spirits and magic and talking beasts and monsters is not wild enough, I really don't know what to say. However, a Chacun à son Gau, or Go, G-O-U-T, not sure how to say that. Can you translate that for us, Robot Lady, and tell me what he's trying to say here? The phrase is one, two, three, four words. The first word, CHACUN. The second word, just the letter A. The third word, SON. And the fourth word, GOUT. Can you tell us what that means in English and what Lewis is alluding to here?
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
That's all right. I'll let it pass by. It's probably not important. Lewis goes on to say, as to the Milton, I daren't advise you. Both volumes are so good if you care for him. You don't give any criticism on Evelina. Do so when you write. And here he's talking about a work by Francis Burney called Evelina, published 1778. He says, it is a lovely moonlight night. Abro brick minlik nicht. Do you remember? I wish you were here. Good night, Jay. All right, that's it. We're all caught up on episode 35. We didn't dig into it as deeply probably as I would have the first time around. This is probably much shorter than my original muted version, but I was short on time. I need to shut it down. I'll do another one back in the normal episode order when I come back tomorrow. So, Robot Lady, if there's anything that you want to say in closing before I shut this down, please go ahead, and we'll go on from there.
It's fascinating to see how Lewis's views on literature and religion evolved. I'm looking forward to your next deep dive.
All right, thank you for your help, Robot Lady. This impromptu episode we just kind of threw together without me giving you much notice. As always, thank you for your help. And until next time, when I continue my read on C.S. Lewis, take care.
You're always welcome, Jeff. It was fun diving into the letters with you. I'll be ready for next time.
Break the code. Man and robot lady, we're on this road. C.S. Lewis letters we unfold. Insights and secrets, ancient bold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and control. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and control. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds unite in this overdose. From Narnia's lands, Screwtape's lands. Engaged with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Our dialogue dances like electric rose to C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw-tape lands, engage with robot lane, take our stance. Refuse unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's lands to screw-tape lands, engage with robot lane, take our stance. Refuse unique